Hey everyone, my name's Elena. I'm the host of this channel, and today we'll be talking about motherhood, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Lovely ladies, hi! So nice to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's half term, and we are all exhausted. Today, I think, was the longest day ever, and everyone's been rushing around. And you took time to come and talk to me, so I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. So, do you want to introduce yourselves, Natalie? Do you want to go first? Lovely lady.
Yes, I'm Natalie. I have two children, a boy who is 7 and a girl who is 5. So they're in year 2 in reception at school. I work almost full time, not quite, but almost. It's gradually been creeping up at a primary school. I'm a primary school teacher, but not the same school that the kids go to.
How about you, Jules?
I'm Jules. I have two children as well. I have my oldest, he is 7, and I have my youngest, and she is 3. And I am currently not working. I got made redundant. Well, I took voluntary redundancy back in June 2023.
Yeah. Cheers. I see your Baileys.
Yeah, weirdly, there's a little bit left.
I'm on cider. What are you on, Jules?
I was having rhubarb gin and ginger ale earlier.
Rhubarb gin, that sounds good.
So delightful.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about motherhood. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. So should we start with something nice and easy? Maybe. When does baby brain go away? So I was reading some articles, and BS Wealth says that between 50 to 80% of postpartum patients experience mom brain. They call it mom brain rather than baby brain. I've always known it as baby brain, but they call it mom brain. It typically lasts 2 to 4 months after giving birth, but environmental factors such as sleep deprivation, which we all experience for more than 4 months, let's be honest, do play a big role in that scale. Good news is that new research suggests that mommy brain, all right, a time where a woman's brain is rewiring itself to learn new skills, multitasking, and even have better memory in later life. That's good news. Have you guys experienced baby brain, mommy brain, and how bad was it? Who wants to start?
I'm happy to go first. I don't think I noticed it particularly as a phenomenon on its own. I think for me it was sleep deprivation. So it's not as if I suddenly thought, oh, I'm really forgetful, I'm struggling to recall, remember, be as sharp as normal. I think for me it was directly linked to sleep deprivation in those sort of early months of having children.
So it's after baby was born.
Yes, I didn't
Okay.
notice any particular changes while pregnant. And I think afterwards it was just a case of, sleep deprivation, not getting enough sleep, and it just being a bit. I think when I first went back to work after having both children, I felt a lack of confidence because it'd been a while since I've been in the classroom.
Course, yeah.
And after my first maternity leave, I started a new school. And after my second maternity leave, I went into a completely different year group, which I'd never done before. And I don't think I was suffering from baby brain or mummy brain then, but I think I had a lack of confidence in myself briefly because I thought it's been a long time. And I think in any job, you've probably got the exact same scenario. You think it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I think in terms of, I think once I got used to the sleep deprivation and the sleep was a bit more regular, I don't think there's been any long term. I know people that say that they still struggle with it years, months and years on.
Some people use it as an excuse probably as well.
Well, possibly. I don't know. I don't think it's had any long-term effect. I think my memory's about the same as it was before.
Yeah.
But there are lots of things you can do to train your brain, and I'm a bit of a weirdo, and I like to do like little online sporkle quizzes where I have to name countries of the world and things. And I think that actually does help to keep things sharp. Hopefully, maybe.
I think so, yeah. What about you, Joe?
I would say something fairly similar to Natalie. I think a lot of it is the sleep deprivation and a change of routine and a change of environment. And you're not quite yourself with everything. It's not like your normal day where you get up, you go to work, you know what you're doing. Whereas when you're at home,
no one knows what they're doing when they first have a kid.
So yeah, I think some of it is to do with sleep deprivation and just complete change in circumstances. If you sort of went into a new job or went into a new environment, you'd be a bit confused and a bit all over the place anyway. And I think it's just that, but it's obviously exaggerated because you are just not getting any sleep at all. So, I mean, even now, my youngest, she is not a very good sleeper now. So, you know, she'll often wake me up 3, 4, maybe even 5 times a night. So I have a really bad couple of days afterwards because I don't quite know where I am, sort of thing. Because again, it's sleep
Your brain is
deprivation.
all foggy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I still get some baby brain, if you call it that, now and again, because I'm still not getting the best sleep thanks to the madam in my household.
Well, sleep deprivation is one of the worst sort of tortures, isn't it? They use it as a torture device when they want to get people to talk and so on. I have a very weird experience with baby brain, and it's I had it while I was pregnant, and it was kind of almost so as a joke and excuse of like I don't know that anymore. I can't remember. But a weird thing, I had a blackout from our holiday in the US. We went to the US for like a round trip before I was even pregnant with my first one. It was a few months before I was pregnant. And from when I had my first one onwards, for about a year and a half, my partner would tell me, this happened and this happened. Oh, do you remember when we went there? And I couldn't remember a single thing from that holiday. There was maybe like, I remember where we went because I remember planning it and so on. But there was so little that I could remember from that holiday. And 2 years later, it all came back, and I'll remember it in detail. But it just kind of, oh yeah, that's not important for the moment. Focus on something else. And my brain just decided that, yeah, that's life before me. You had fun, so let's not focus on that.
It's like it sealed part of your brain off to focus on other things. That's crazy.
It's so strange. It's so strange, but it did come back. So I guess that's a good that's a good news. The second question was, when does mum tum go? This annoyed me when I read this. It was from Cambridge Laser Clinic. It says abdominal muscle separation is a common cause of a mum tum, with around 60% of new mums affected. Only 60 seems low. Generally, with the right exercise, your muscles will heal themselves by 8 weeks postpartum. The Healthline.com says 2.6% of women only still have a mummy tummy 1 year after having a baby. So I think I spoke to you about it, Jules, already, and we said that after the first one, he went, but never after the second one.
No, the first one. So because I was doing so I'm quite sporty. I do lots of exercise. Not that you can tell these days. But yeah, when I had my first, I did do like proper mummy classes afterwards. So it was run by a mum who was like specializes in exercises for those that have had children, like within the last couple of years, kind of thing. And she used to be able to test your sort of stomach to see if there was still a gap where your muscles were. And even after about 8, 9 months of having my first, the gap was still there, even though I was exercising. But the sort of flabby parts did go. But then when I had my second one, I still do lots of exercise, but then I still eat probably the wrong foods as well because I'm quite tired with her. I definitely have not lost that tummy, and I don't think I'll ever lose it.
You get to a point where you're like, this is not going to happen. I might as well get rid of my small clothes.
Yeah, my mum is quite slim, but she still has. She calls it the paunch, which and yeah, she still has her tummy, and even though she's very skinny, yeah, she still has her baby belly. So I think for me, it's not going to go.
Yeah. What about you, Natalie? You're quite active as well, aren't you?
I think a lot of it's just luck, isn't it? Some people have the muscle separation, the diastasis recti, is it called? And some people have more elastic skin than others. So I think some people will snap back, some people won't. I think in my case, I've never been the same since, but I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that I probably, to some extent, when I'm tired, when I'm sleep deprived, I will reach for sweet things. So I think really the fact that I haven't gone back to pre-pregnancy is probably more due to the diet that I'm eating. If I were to eat more healthily and lose some weight, it would be interesting to see whether my stomach would be the same. I don't think it would quite be the same. I don't think it will ever be as sort of smooth as it was then. I've never been skinny. In terms of strength, I did notice that after having children, it was difficult to get back to where I was, not because of having the child, not that bit necessarily, but it's the fact that all pregnancy you don't do as much. And then it was after that, because when I was pregnant, I was quite active and I carried on doing quite a lot of the stuff I was doing before. But when you have that newborn and when you're breastfeeding like I was, my babies were quite attached to me for a long time. So I couldn't go off and do all the things that I had done before. I was quite sedentary for quite a while. And it took a while. But I do think when we're talking about core strength and core muscles, I often look at myself and think, oh, your core's so weak, it's not very strong. But actually, when I if I was looking at sort of a cohort of my peers, of other women of 2 children who are 37 years old, nearly 38, I'd be thinking, actually, maybe my core strength isn't that bad. Maybe it's okay. I can still do quite a lot. I don't think I should be putting limits on myself. I think there's a lot more I could do, but is there a lot more I will do? I think is the question. I could eat more healthily. I could lose a bit of weight. I could work on it more. But realistically, am I going to do that?
Yeah, there's a thing.
Yeah.
It's taking out
Is it possible to get it back? Probably. Will I? I don't know. Maybe.
Some people do when you see, online and stars with personal trainers and so on, celebrities, they can't do it because they have to do it because that's their livelihood. They don't have to show the perfect body, but that's what they do. And yeah, making us all feel guilty about ourselves. But then it does come with a lot of effort, and I'm sure they sacrifice a lot to be able to get back into shape like that. And it takes a lot of exercise and a lot of healthy eating and so on. But it's difficult to choose healthy eating sometimes as well when you're a parent, when you're working as well, and you come back home and you have so much time with your kids that you don't want to spend the whole time in the kitchen cooking a meal every single night. So yeah, sometimes you go for a fish and chips or for a takeaway, or you reward yourself with a chocolate after the kids have gone to bed because it makes you feel good, and you need that reward sometimes. A glass of wine or a chocolate, but they're both as bad as each other, aren't they? But yeah, I don't think the guilt is the way forward for moms. I think it's just kind of normalizing. It's okay to be tired. It's okay, to get at the end of the week and feel like I need a glass of wine now. I think it's been tough and so on. I don't think, aiming too high is always a bit disappointing. So it's better to just be happy with yourself. All right. So speaking of aiming too high and struggling, how do moms who work full-time manage it? There's an article saying working full-time mom while raising kids is just plain hard. I don't really know what to say when people ask, how do you do it all? Maybe the best answer is, I don't. So maybe rather than asking that, the question should be, how do you make it work? I give myself permission to have a sink full of dirty dishes, have the child at daycare that always has super crazy hair, and be okay with walking down the street as my exercise that day. The best advice I could come up with is be flexible, lower your expectations, laugh at yourself, be present, and try to enjoy little moments. I think that's quite wise, isn't it? It's just, but yeah, you're almost full-time working, Natalie, aren't you? So how do you feel? And Jules afterwards, because you were working up until recently full-time. So how was that for you guys?
Yeah. So when I first went back to work after having both children, I did 3 days a week, which worked for me because it was more than half the working week, so it was worth it financially. It was enough to get back into my role and actually sort of sink my teeth into it and get back into teaching. But it was less than half the working week, so I had lots of time with the children. Now that both the children are at school, I do 3 full days and I do Monday and Tuesday morning. So I've got Monday and Tuesday afternoon off. Which is actually, when you think about it, quite a small amount of time. But what it allows me to do, on Monday, I pick up the children from school and take them to an activity. We go off to cheerleading. So it gives them the opportunity to do that and for me to take them. And on a Tuesday, I like to pick them up because if we want to do a play date, that gives me the opportunity to do that. People that work full time and have to use wraparound childcare, or they're like grandparents or childminders, it does really reduce the amount of play dates that you can do with people midweek, and having those sort of social opportunities with other children. So I enjoy having that. For me, it's a bit different because although I work pretty much full time, I'm around for all of the holidays. So I kind of, there is a lot of mum guilt, I think. I think a lot of mums have that guilt. Realistically, in this day and age, lots of people have to work, both parents full time. But because I have those holidays, I can kind of say to myself, if I'm a bit busy, rushed. I haven't got a lot of time to spend with the children. I know that in the holidays, I can make up for that by spending a lot of time with them, doing lots of exciting things with them, going to lots of places.
Yeah.
And what you say about giving yourself a break and going, well, it's not going to be perfect. My house isn't always going to be immaculate. As long as everyone is fed, happy, healthy, and doing everything they need to do, you kind of just got to say that it is what it is. My house isn't immaculate. My life's a little bit chaotic. I'm not always quite sure of what's going on. Writing things down as your friend, putting everything in the diary. Also, sharing the load with your other half, your partner, if you are with someone else. Sharing the load, making sure that you're both taking responsibility. My husband and I split things down the middle. He does spellings with the children. I'll do the numbots and the TT rock stars. So we share a lot. And I think that's just how it works, really. That's how we make it work. And I think I do feel for those people that don't work in education, they have to try and find something for the kids to do in the holidays, because that's a whole other ball game. And childcare fees are a whole other ball game. And I've been very lucky to have my parents and my husband's parents' support as well with childcare since the kids were tiny. So that's really helped me.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it, when you have people around. What about you, Jules? Because that's one of the reasons why you kind of felt like you had to stop, isn't it?
Yeah, so just one of the reasons for sort of quite happily taking the redundancy was I had like the worst mum guilt, and I just felt like I wasn't getting anything right in my life at all. Like I felt like I wasn't there for the children. I wasn't there like to help my mum and dad out as well, because they're getting older. And they sort of struggle with things. And yeah, I didn't really feel like I was doing a very good job at school, at work either, because the kids would be sick, or there was another holiday, or there was an insect day, or the childminder would be sick, or something like that, and I'd have to like at last minute phone up and say I can't come in today, which meant my team would then have to take my workload.
Then you feel guilty again.
Every angle of my life, it just seemed to be I wasn't getting it right, and then you're juggling, like Natalie was saying, you juggle the holidays, and then it turned out that like in a space of a year I had one day off, like for myself, which was my birthday. The rest of the days was literally juggling the kids' holidays, or covering sickness or insect days or childminder sickness. So we didn't go on holiday except for like camping weekends, because we did not have enough holiday between us. So yeah, it was just absolutely ridiculous, really. So I didn't work full time. I worked 3 days a week, but my other half is in emergency services, and so his job always took priority over mine, and he works long hours. So, and I didn't have any sort of help from parents really either. So yeah, it's really, really hard, and the house, yeah, was a mess. And yeah, I don't think we were really coping, to be quite honest. And it just fortunately came to an end because there was redundancy. So yeah, it was very, very hard. And also, like round here, southeast, it's very expensive to live. I think both parents kind of have to work, don't they? I don't
Yeah,
think
that's
there's a
what you were
choice in
saying.
it. You can't. If my partner was to work on his own and I wasn't to work and help support, we would be in a very small flat somewhere. We just couldn't do it. So yeah, it is difficult. And like Natalie says, you can't. The kids don't get their play dates. They don't get to go to school clubs unless they're on a Saturday and Sunday. But then you want to chill out on a Saturday and Sunday as well.
You need to. You need to. It's not just what you want to. You need to. The whole family needs to probably as well.
Yeah. So life is so much easier and calmer now that I'm not working. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a massive turnaround. So yeah, at some point I will have to go back to work, and I will have that juggling act, but hopefully I can find more suitable hours.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? So I was in the same kind of working too much for a period of time recently last year. I think it was weird because I realized last year at one point that all of the couples that we knew around here were both working, that both parents were working, maybe not full time, but at least 3 or 4 days a week for the mom generally. And like we got to that point where everyone has to work financially. But then after a while, at the end of last year, we all realized that it wasn't viable either, that something had to give. And I got to the same point as you, Jules. It was just constant guilt at home, guilt at work. And it's just like, no, this is too stressful. It's not worth it. So in the same way as you. I was lucky enough that I could stop for a while. But yeah, once you stop and you get used to that not working and having the time to go to, watch the kids in their plays or having play dates or whatever, it's very difficult to then find something that fits, as you were saying, Natalie, earlier, that fits around school holidays, that fits around your life now that you got back. It's difficult to find the right thing. So yeah, it's definitely a juggling act. But in terms of full-time moms, I think you know this, Jules, because I told you earlier we saw each other this week. But Natalie, what do you think? How many hours does a full-time mom do a week? An estimate.
What, doing mum related
Do mum
things?
stuff.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And this is the interesting, the sort of age old debate that I've had, and I've talked about this a lot with other people about the mental load. We all know about the mental load, because although I said that I share a lot with my husband, I am the project manager for the household. So he will do the things I ask him to do, and he will do them efficiently and he'll get them done.
Yeah.
But I have to be the one that works out what needs to be done and delegates the tasks.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that has to remember all the schedules. And if there's a party or a play date or anything, that's all up to me. And I think as women generally, I think we take on a lot of that mental load. If one of my children is invited to a party, I'll be the one that finds the invitation in the book bag. I'll be the one that sends the message to the parent, normally the mother, actually. Send it to the mother. Yes, we're coming. Work out how we're going to get there, get the present, get the card, wrap it, and do all that. And it's just, I think for every sort of aspect of our life, we probably project manage. And our other halves will do everything we ask them to obediently. And I don't think they're not being lazy, they're not being unwilling. I just think somehow as a society, we've got into this habit where women organize things, and that's what happens. And in my household, we've had to have a bit of a shift because I've been working more. My husband's had to be a bit more responsible for
that point, don't you?
Yeah, get that done. And we're getting there. But I think that is it's a fundamental issue whereby we are doing a lot more of that sort of unpaid, unappreciated life admin. And those sort of mum hours are much more than you think they are because of all that time spent planning and organising the whole family's schedules and lives.
Yeah, we're saying like you should get one of those stopwatches, and every time you do something that's for the kids, it's around, even if that's cooking or putting the laundry or whatever, just get a clock and then time it. And yeah, so apparently it's 98 hours a week. That the survey in the US included 2,000 moms with children in elementary school. So the equivalent of 2.5 full-time jobs. I think that's probably pretty accurate, isn't it? But as you say, you don't get paid. The reward that you get is that your children are happy and healthy, and that you feel like I'm trying to do a good job at least. I don't know if always, but we'll find out when they're adults, maybe. What we're doing is right, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, it's quite interesting because anything that you do, and probably the same for all families, even booking your holidays, it goes around them, doesn't it? You book a place that has a play area that you know that they'll be entertained and whatever so yeah, your whole life changes. I always said, when I was younger, I was quite, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I was quite judgmental of women that didn't want to be moms. I just couldn't understand it because I knew I wanted to be a mom since I was 17. And I always said, one day I'll be a mom, and I was born to be a mom, and I just couldn't understand. For men, yeah, you don't want to be a dad. I understand that. It's not, it's always been okay for me. But for women, I just couldn't for some reason. And it's only when I became a mom that I actually understood the commitment and that it's just your whole life changes. It's not everything. So it's only then that I like, okay, I wouldn't change it for the world. But now I understand, because if you're not ready to be fully committed, if you're not ready for your whole life to change and to just suddenly revolve around them, then it's better not to do it. And if you want to focus on yourself or your career, go for it. But and I'll encourage you. It's fine. It's yeah, I won't judge you. I promise I don't judge anyone anymore, I think.
I think it's interesting. I think people that are making that decision to say, actually, I love other children, I love your children, but I don't want children. People that say that, I have a lot of respect for that. Same as you, I have a lot of respect. I understand why they wouldn't want to make that commitment. And funnily enough,
honest,
a lot of
isn't
those
it?
people would be excellent parents because they're mature and they're sensible and they know themselves well. They've got good self-awareness. They know what they can take on. They know what they're not willing to do. They have boundaries. So they would make great parents, but they make that decision and that's absolutely right for them. And there are many, as we all know, there are many parents out there there are many people out there that have children and they don't look after their children. And there are all these instances of parents that are neglectful, that are abusive. And you just think, if people actually thought more carefully about the commitment that you make when you decide to have children.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big commitment, but it's something that you've got to be ready for. And no one's ever ready, but you've got to be prepared to give it your best shot, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Jules cracked the code, but there is one little problem there. But can I say what we talked about of kind of advising your daughter if she wants to be a mom to, what do you want to share it with us, Jules?
Oh,
about
um,
versus motherhood choice.
Oh yeah, so like for me, obviously I was brought up to be independent, to have my own finances. Education was very important, so I'm very well educated. And I've worked hard all my life. I had a decent job, and now feel like I've lost, I've lost that. I've lost like all of that. And for me now, I'm kind of like, when I think about my daughter's future, I do feel like if she wants to be a mum and that's the kind of path she wants to go down, I do sort of feel a little bit like, well, what's the point of going to university? What's the point of, slogging your guts off if you're going to be a mum? Because for so many mums, you're doing jobs that you don't really want to do, or the hours that you don't really want to do, because it's all dictated by your children. And it's not always the way, because I know there are dads that do it as well. But I mean, I know the school that I go with, 90% of those parents are mums that pick up the children. So I'm all for equal opportunities and everything like that, but for me, I do feel slightly reluctant to push or have the same opportunities that perhaps my son might have, which is probably a really wrong thing. But for me, I feel what a waste of education, what a waste of all of that sort of thing for me. And I don't want anyone to feel some of the emotions that I've felt.
It's almost like you build a career, but it has to end at some point. That career has to end, or at least stop for a long time. And then when you go back and you say you're not as confident, you don't know whether it's going to work again or not. But I think, when I said you crack the code, I think if we were to say, to the young girls, it's all right, try and be a mom early. If if that's something you want, if you feel deep down that you have that instinct that you want to be a mom, maybe do it earlier rather than later. So sooner rather than later. So in your early 20s, because it'll be easier, you'll have more energy, you'll be done with it. And then by the time the kids, and you can still have an education, you can't go to university necessarily, but let's be honest, universities are probably going to disappear anytime soon. I think it's all going to be online now, academies and certifications and so on. There's so much that you can learn online. So you can still have that education while you have children. And then once they're at school and you have that time, maybe then you'll be in your 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and then you have your, whole 50 years to build your career afterwards. So the only problem with that is the financial side of it. Like, can you afford to be a parent at 20? And also the logistics side of it is that you need a husband, a partner to be a parent with. So are men ready at 20 to be parents? Probably not. So you had to find someone older. And so there are a few bits, but I think it might actually work better to, rather than start a career and ultimately having to stop it to become a mom, then, you know, be a mom first and then start a career. That might be the logical way forward. I don't know.
I can't
So
imagine ever wanting children at the age of 20 or being ready for
I was
children.
ready. I was ready.
I was not. I was, yeah.
But I'm so happy I didn't, to be honest.
It was
I'm very grateful, you know, that I was 29, you know, when I first got pregnant, and I had my 20s to enjoy and have time to myself. So that's the other side of it. You know, if you don't live fully in your 20s, then you kind of feel like you missed out and you start later. Yeah.
I feel so I don't know. I am a year ahead of you both in terms of my youngest is a little bit older. This is the first year that I actually feel that I'm back on track with my career. So I don't know whether it's just a case of we have to wait it out a bit longer. But also going back to something you said earlier, like Jules, my family, and probably like yours as well, my family were all very much of the you get a good education, you work hard, you get your GCSEs, you go to college or sixth form, you get your A levels, you go to university, you get a good degree, you get a job. And I always had this not pressure. My parents weren't, they were relatively relaxed, but there was always that expectation that that's what I would do. I would get good grades, I'd get a good job. And then not that long ago, I was talking to my dad, and my dad is somewhat old school. You know, he's 75. He's got, I guess, quite traditional values. But he said to me recently, well, really, what would be best for the children would be if you were at home
Interesting.
and you didn't work. And I thought to myself, And
Why did you push me so hard then?
but I thought all my life, Dad, you've said to me, work hard, go to university, get this good job, get this career, to now just say to me, really, you should just be staying at home and being a mum. And there's value in that. There's huge value in that. But we have this mixed messaging. And I'm sure that Jules, because from what you said, I thought you've had exactly the same. You've had this push, 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 push. And society is telling us girls can do anything. Girls should be paid as much as men. Girls should aim high. Girls can do whatever boys can do. And we all had this like 90s girl power. Yeah. And then we get to having children and it's like, well, you can work part time and you might have to not work and you should be at home with your kids. And you kind of think, what do you want from me? Society, what do you want from me?
Yeah. Well, have you seen Barbie and the monologue in Barbie? That's very accurate. Like I listened to it, it's like, yeah, I can sign. I'm going to sign. Like it's exactly what you're saying, and it is. It's very accurate. But yeah, just going back to what you were saying, Jules, about not necessarily having the same advice for your son as for your daughter. This is a question definitely for both of you because I have two sons. So do mothers prefer their sons to their daughters? The Guardian says a survey of 2,500 mothers revealed that 90% of mothers treat boys and girls differently. So that's different, like treating them differently to preferring. That's a different thing, isn't it? Mothers are more critical of their daughters and admit having a stronger bond with their little boys. Example, using terms as cheeky and playful for boys and stroppy and argumentative for girls. And I think that's quite accurate. But I'm from the outside here, so I'll let you guys talk. What about you, Jules? Do you think it's a different relationship between your son and your daughter? Well, you and your son and your daughter.
Yeah, I'd sort of find that one a bit hard to ask because my youngest, she's only like, well, she'd be 4 soon actually, but she's still quite young, so she still loves her mummy and wants to be around her mummy all the time. And then my son definitely wants to be with me all the time as well. So I kind of feel like,
you both want me. I'm so lucky.
Yeah,
none of mine want. So that's the point.
they definitely get treated differently. But I kind of don't know if that's because of the age thing and the gender thing, rather than me favor one. But maybe it's just because like my daughter's still too young really to be kind of parted. But I would definitely say my daughter is her daddy's princess, whereas my son's probably not quite like treasured, I suppose, as what she is. But again, she's still very young and that very cute sort of phase. So
can you relate a bit more to her behavior and kind of like see yourself in her more than you can in your older one?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's another thing, isn't it? It's what traits you can see in your children, and it's that whole familiarization, isn't it? If you can see that trait that's like you can relate to it better, you can understand it better. My son is not sporty at all, and cannot grasp things very quickly, anything relating to sport. And I find that very frustrating and very hard, because that's certainly not me. I always got sport quickly, you know, I have good coordination with it all. And yeah, so I do find that kind of frustrating with him, because yeah, he hasn't got that kind of sort of similarity to what I had. So yeah, I think it like kind of depends what you can see in your children, how you can relate to it, and whether you like that trait or not, I suppose. So in my household, not at the moment. I don't think I favour one or the other, or prefer one over the other.
But you do admit that you treat them differently, but that could be also
Yeah.
due to the age rather than the gender.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Natalie?
My dad once said to me, I love all my children the same, but there are some that I like better than others. And I thought that was really interesting, because my dad has got 5, kind of 6. It's a long story. There's like a secret sister in Canada somewhere.
I've got one of those
Story
as
for
well.
another day. But my dad has got sort of 5 children that we know of. So I've got 3 half brothers and a full brother. And when he said that, it did make me laugh. He said, I love you all the same, but I like some of you more than others. And he's quite open.
But that's a personality
because
thing, isn't it?
that's it. And he says
Just being
that is
honest.
just the way. I mean, there is going to be, like you say, things that you have in common with your children. Now, my children are very different in terms of their personalities. My oldest is quite calm, very easygoing. He kind of gets along with anyone. He's very positive. He likes everything. I say, who's your best friend at the moment? He goes, everyone's my friend.
Oh,
And I'm
I
like,
love him.
that's lovely. That's lovely, darling. Whereas my daughter, if I say things, she's like, oh, boys, they're just so annoying, mummy. Oh, like she's much more like that. But although they're quite different, I think there are elements of my personality in both of them. So I have a slightly different relationship with both of them. My daughter's very much mummy's girl, and I think this might have stemmed from originally from COVID. She spent a lot of time with me when she was young, and she's quite, in some ways, quite clingy. I mean, she's not. If we go somewhere, she's off. She's very confident,
She's very
but she's
confident.
very much like mummy, mummy. Whereas my son isn't like that particularly, but he's still very cuddly and very affectionate. But I have a different relationship, and we do different things. But I think equally, I mean, we all just love our children so much, and they've got different qualities that I admire in both of them. If someone said, what do you love about, your son, what do you love about your daughter? There'd be different things, but they're just equally, I think, as important or as valid. And I sort of value all those qualities. But it is interesting. Do I treat them differently? My daughter is very like stereotypically girly. My son isn't completely stereotypically male. He's not. If someone said a stereotypical boy, sort of rough and tumble and energetic, and he hasn't got that sort of like stereotypical boy thing going on. He's quite gentle. He has friends that are girls and boys. He gets on with both equally. My daughter is very much a girl's girl. So I don't think I've ever really said I treat him like a boy and her like a girl, but she's just so inherently girly that I think sometimes the conversations that we have, the interactions we have are quite different between me and my daughter and me and my son. So I treat them differently, I think, to some extent, but I think maybe as a result of their personality.
They have different needs, don't they? They're just their personality. I think the gender thing comes more probably when they're teenagers, and you can see more difference between how the boys behave and how the girls behave and what their needs are. I think that comes in probably more in play with the teenagers. I've always known that I wanted boys.
What do you find with your 2 boys, obviously? Do you think they're quite different? Do you think they're quite similar? And what do you think?
Yeah, again, that's the thing, they're both the same gender, both same parents, both raised the same way, and they are still very different. It's just very different personalities. Like my oldest one is mini daddy. They're very similar, but that's why they clash sometimes, because they have high expectations from each other because they know. And for me, the little one is like me, but then he will annoy me because I'm like, I know that's one of the bad traits of mine, or like taking 2 hours lunch. I was like, oh, I used to be like that, so I can't really tell you off, but this is really annoying. Actually, now I understand my parents. But in the good side as well, he's much more confident and outgoing and friendly. He'll play with everyone, and he'll go and whereas our older one is much more, people are drawn to him. He's lucky that people are actually drawn to him, so it's good in that way that he always has friends. But he'll be happy in his own world as well. So it's but yeah, as you say, it's very difficult to say. I could never say would I prefer one or the other. It's like, it just, as your dad said, liking them in a different way on different days. You like one more than the other because the other one annoys
And
you probably.
that might be more apparent when they're adults. When they're adults, we might find that we get along with one more than the other, and we spend more time together. And I think that's probably where my dad's come from. Now that we've all grown up, there are his children, some that he can chat more easily to, get along with better, just because in life you do, don't you? Some people you click more naturally with.
Exactly.
So perhaps when they're adults, we'll just click more
and
with one.
you lose at some point as an adult, you lose that sort of authority figure as a parent. You just become equals and you become friends, and then it's a personality thing at the end, as you say. Yeah, it's definitely a personality thing. All right. And in speaking of equals, are mothers and fathers equally important? CNE News says the secret of shared leadership between mother and father is to create a space for their differences to have an impact. And for us, it's certainly true. So I don't know I don't know, are you guys quite similar, or do you have very different personalities? We are very different, and I think it's a good thing.
I would agree. I think my husband and I have got very different personalities, and we bring different things to parenting. I think the role of fathers has changed so much in our lifetime. When we think about our parents and our grandparents, the fathers in our children's life are so much more present than they were then. I know it's difficult depending on the jobs they do, but although we say we see a lot more mothers at the school gates, more and more when you go to parties, dad's taking the children. When you have the school plays, the dads are there. I think dads are taking a much more active role in their children's life now, because the mums a lot of the time are working. So it is a lot more split. And I think that's definitely a very positive thing.
I think that's really good.
Yeah, both parents have that, slightly more equal standing.
But I was thinking, I don't know how your dads are. I mean, you've been talking about yours, Natalie. I don't know about yours, Jules, but my dad was really kind of loving and full on, and he could have, and he did have a big part. But I think that if our parents and the generations before our dads had been given the chance of having that part, as our partners now do, the world would have been a much different place. I think it's, if those roles were equalized, but 3 or 4 5 generations before, I think the world would be a much different place, because it would have made humans and adults that are much more stable and much more aware emotionally, and yeah, I'm hoping, I have hope for the future for our children, and that it will make them better, more aware human beings.
Do you find it interesting, both of you, watching your children's grandfathers be grandfathers? Because my mum made that observation. She said it's funny because dad wasn't around like this when you were little. He was at work. And my dad is a financial advisor, and he used to go out in the evenings to meet people for appointments, because he would have to wait till they finished work. So often in the evenings, he wasn't around. At the weekends, he played golf quite a lot. So my dad wasn't around loads for us to spend a lot of time with him. He certainly didn't do parties or the pick up and drop off. Again, very loving. But now he's very present because he's retired. He's there for my kids all the time. They see him. They do pick up twice a week. My husband's dad as well. He's very available. He worked 2 jobs when my husband was young, in the fire service, and he did gardening as well. So while they weren't present when we were young, now they're kind of getting a do-over as grandparents. And I don't know, do you both see that as well?
Yeah. What about you?
My dad quite often says, I don't remember you doing that, Julia. And mum will be like, oh, it's because you're always at work. But he sees the grandkids growing up and doing things and stuff, and he's like, I don't remember her doing that, and mum will be like, oh yeah, you weren't there, you were working.
It's a shame though, isn't it, that they missed out
Mm.
on so much like that. Yeah. For me, I mean, my dad passed when I was 12, so it's not the same. He doesn't have a they don't have a grandfather from my side. They have my stepdad, who was always like a friend to me. We never had that kind of parent-child relationship. We've always been friends. I've always been very close to him, closer to him than to my mom sometimes, many levels. But he's never had a child. They never managed to get a child. So he's always been very, very selfish, very self-centered, narcissistic. It's about him. If there is a piece of cake, he will not even think about leaving it to a child. He'll take it. But now, since we've had children and my brother has had children, he is a completely different person. It's insane. Like, to me, it's amazing to see him like that, because he just adores them. And yeah, okay, no, if that's what they want to do, okay, I'll go and read to them. I'll put them to bed. Like, what, you can actually do that. So it's nice though. It is nice, and how a child can change a person, and it's a shame for him, because I'm sure he would have been a wonderful dad if he had had a chance. But he's, yeah, as you say, he's making it up now as well. So yeah. And just to finish, our mother's always right. As much as we don't like to believe it, mothers are always right. Your mother is always right, because she has been in your shoes. No matter what decisions you're making, be aware that your mom has already made it, and reap the consequences. So you thought, oh no, my mom warned me, and I should have known better. And what do you think?
I guess what we do, everything we do for our children, is with love and to protect them and to try and do the best for them. But I have said things or done things because I thought they'd been right at the time. And then I've sort of looked back and reflected upon it, and I sort of think, well, maybe that probably wasn't quite the right decision. Or
Thank you, Kat.
yeah, I mean, yeah, everything we do is for the right reasons, I would say. But I look back at my mum, and so many things that I remember drove me up the wall with her. She was right about, or I can now relate to. So yeah, there were some things like, she never gave me sweets or chocolates or things like that because they weren't good for me, kind of thing. But then, like, that drove me mad. And as soon as I went to secondary school, I would then, scoff my face with sweets and chocolates. So my
As you
mum
do.
was right in one way, but then, like, it wasn't right in another way, kind of thing. So, but she made that decision to try and do the right thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it swings and roundabouts. We try and do the right thing.
I
Yeah.
think so. My mum has never been that sort of mum who tries to give unsolicited advice or
You're lucky.
tries to push on me on anything that. Let's just say, when I had very small children and I was finding my way as a mother, my mum was supportive of whatever I was thinking about doing. Anything that I suggested that was, how some parents go, oh, it wasn't like that when I was young, or why don't you just do this? My mum was never like that. I think if I had said, what do you think I should do? She would have given me advice, but she never tried to impress the way she did it or her opinion on me. So I was very lucky in that respect. So my mum never has that "you should do this, I told you so" kind of thing. When I was a teenager, and my mum will back me up on this, she said that both me and my brother were quite easy teenagers. We weren't argumentative. We didn't have screaming rows. We were relatively laid back as far as teenagers go. Mum said that she didn't really have any problems. We've always got on well. So is my mother always right? I can't remember any instance really where she's done anything that controversially wrong, but she was never that forceful about something that I've had to then go, oh, she was right or she was wrong. I think I think she's guided me through things rather than given me advice. And I think if I could do that with my children, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Along the lines of myself as a parent, am I always right? Absolutely not. Should
I
I?
thought you were going somewhere else. I thought you were going to say absolutely. Yes.
Absolutely. I am always right. Absolutely not. Sometimes I find myself saying things and I think that's not how I should react to the situation. Now, I'm not doing anything disastrous, but sometimes I can see that the children are overtired, or, when you get to the end of term and they're just a bit whingy. And really, I know that they are overtired, overstimulated. And you sort of snap at them a bit and you think, actually, this is not what I should be doing. And we're not perfect as mothers. We do things. And I think what I probably need to get better at is modeling the behavior that I want my children. I think it's very difficult as parents for us to sometimes admit that we were wrong to children.
Yeah.
And I think
but
that's
we
something
should
that,
do it, even though it's difficult.
being
We should do
reflective,
it because then you can teach them that it's okay that everyone's wrong sometimes, and it's okay to, to admit it, and then you learn from it and you move on. But yeah, I think
it's difficult, isn't it?
It's difficult. It's very difficult
But
because they're
saying
like,
to the children,
I did.
yeah, to say to them, I'm really sorry that I snapped at you then. I was feeling a bit tired and stressed, but I shouldn't have shouted at you about that.
Yeah.
So I think for me, oh, my children are still awake, by the way.
Yeah, so
Great mother over here. Wow, it's 10:30. But I think I think that's something that I need to do. I think I need to be more accountable sometimes if I am wrong, if I haven't dealt with something well, and be honest with my children, take responsibility, because actually we want our children to be able to do that. So we need to model that. And I think that's something that that's the point for improvement.
Well, yeah, we're not perfect, are we? Far from it. Oh, thank you so much, ladies, for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. And I feel like I should have snuggled up in my pajama or something as well. Like, you look very snuggly and I'm very jealous. I did put my coffee trousers there.